Hello students, welcome to the daily news analysis. I am your educator Prithviraj Singh, and today we will be discussing the important news articles of 3rd February this year. Let us start with the first slide. Now on the front page of the Hindu newspaper, we had a news about Smriti Irani giving comment with regard to marital rape. Right now in India, definitely there are different laws which regulate the crime. We have IPC, we have CRPC, then we have the supreme law of the land in the form of constitution. Right now, marital rape, there is a section given in IPC, Indian Penal Code. You can also see this here, section 375. Now section 375 of IPC gives the immunity to the husband, and no charges, no rape charges can be constituted against the husband, against his wife. Right, so therefore it is immunity given to the husband. Right now there are many petitions being filed in Delhi High Court, and mind you, Delhi High Court is one of the most powerful courts of our country, and some NGOs have filed a petition that marital rape must be, it must be declared as a crime. Right, and so there have been various news articles from past many days. Smriti Irani says that if we declare them as rape, then there would be too much interference in the marriage life of the individual, in the married life of an individual. Right, so therefore there must not be, it must not be declared as a crime. Let us see the news article. The Delhi High Court is hearing a petition seeking criminalization of marital rape. Now Delhi, in the petition filed by NGO, it's being said that marital rape it should be declared as a crime because we cannot objectify a women, and marriage do not give a license, for a rapist to be declared as a non-rapist. Are you getting? So therefore there are petitions which are saying that section 375 of the IPC should be struck down. It should be rejected, it should be struck down. Right, because students, section 375 IPC gives a immunity, to a husband if he, do a forcible sexual intercourse or sexual act with his own wife. Right, so therefore it is something which goes against the, and because it is also violating many articles of the Constitution. Article 15, which talks about the prohibition of discrimination based on race, religion, caste, sex and place of origin. Similarly, similarly Article 19 clause 1, which talks about right to freedom of speech and expression. Right, so when a women consent is not being taken, it is a clear violation of Article 19 clause 1 and Article 15. Right, so this is a petition which is being filed in Delhi High Court. Right, but then IPC section 375 gives the immunity to the husband. Now it comes in a direct conflict by a statutory act. A statutory act means an act being passed by the parliament, and the name of the act is a very famous act, Domestic Violence Act, of section 3 of Domestic Violence Act. Now Domestic Violence Act, Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act, which was an act of 2005, it defines a domestic violence which include physical, sexual, verbal and emotional abuse. Right, so on one side, Domestic Violence Act declares that any sexual, physical, verbal or emotional abuse is a crime, but section 375 IPC do not declare it as a crime and instead gives the immunity to the husband. So there is a conflict between the two. Right, so therefore government has, is actually deliberating over the resolution of the same. Right, in the 2015-16 National Family Health Survey, it was being found that 7% of ever married women have experienced spousal sexual violence. Right, so they are startling figures. Right, but then the court said that it is quite difficult because the ministers in the present government are saying that it is quite difficult to ascertain the consent of the women. Right, so therefore it becomes quite difficult. You cannot gauze out that what is the consent and is there consent involved. Right, similarly 172nd report of Law Commission in 2000 said that you cannot delete section 375 of IPC because you cannot come up with the consent of the sex, right? But Justice J.S. Verma committee formed after the Nirbhaya gang rape case in 2013, it said that section 375 IPC should be, deleted, and it recommended making marital rape a crime, right? So there have been various deliberations, various talks about the marital rape, and the case is still sub judice in Delhi High Court. In Delhi High Court, a petition is being filed, students, by RIT, Rich Foundation, and All India Democratic Women's Association, right? So the examiner might ask you that which among the following NGOs have filed a petition in Delhi High Court to declare marital rape a crime. So it is Rich Foundation and All India Democratic Women's Association. They said that marital rape exception reduces the wife's sexual desire and consent to a nullity, right? So it is of no use, right? Delhi High Court has rejected that and retained the marital rape exception. So this is the news article, and the High Court also says that it is a clear violation of Article 15 and 19, right? So students, there are many clauses in the Constitution which are under direct conflict with section 375 IPC, right? As I just mentioned, Article 15, prohibition of discrimination, Article 19, freedom of speech and expression, comes in direct conflict with section 375 IPC, right? At the same time, section 3 of protection of women against domestic violence also comes in conflict. So the government and the court have to find the solution, and let's see what happens in the judgment in Delhi High Court. Let's move to the next news article. Now the news article on your screen talks about the Manrega, right? And very importantly, students, I would say it is a sad move in the union budget which was presented on 1st of February. The government has cut the budget allocation for Manrega, right? And they have cut 25% of the budget allocation given to the Manrega. So it is a huge cut in comparison to the last revised estimates of the previous year, right? That means the previous year that is still undergoing, right? So I repeat again, students, the government has in the budget has reduced the budget allocation to 25% in comparison to the previous year for Manrega, right? We all know Manrega as Act came in the year 2005, and it gives 100 days, employment guarantee. And if in filing of the application, if an person is not able to get the job or not able to get the skilled or semi-skilled job within 15 days, then he would be getting unemployment allowances, right? But the government cutting the budget over Manrega 25% is a very sad reality. At the same time, students, the article also says that there are 3,358 crore rupees in Manrega wages which are still not paid. That means there is huge pending amount which is there with the government, and there are huge wage arrears of the amount of the tune of 3,358 crore rupees, and they are still unpaid, right? So therefore the news floated on the front page of the Hindu, right? Moving ahead, you can see on the screen that Manrega was enacted on 25th August 2005, and it gives a legal guarantee of at least 100 days of paid employment, right? So 100 days of paid employment, as you all know, is being given under Manrega. Now we have to be bothered about the minimum wages. Now students, the minimum wages which are being decided are 120 rupees 120 per day at 2009 rates. Now students, when you compare it with the wages which a labor gets outside, there is a huge difference, because in the outside market is ready to give them 400-500 rupees per day. Are you getting? So that is something which the market is giving, right? So who would be interested in these 120 rupees, right? That is the reason why laborers don't have any interest to enroll themselves in Manrega, right? And it is seeing a lack of interest among the people in the village, right? Now originally it was called as Narega, and in 2009 Mahatma Gandhi word was being added, right? Now the salient features of the act are the right to work. Now students, in India in our constitution we have Article 41, Directive Principles of State Policy, which puts a moral obligation on the state. It's a moral duty of the state all the articles which are mentioned under directive principle. One such article, Article 41 under directive principles of state policy, and we know that they are mentioned under Part 4 of the Constitution. They are non-justiciable. We are clear with that. Now, Article 41 talks about right to work, right? That it is the duty, moral duty of the state to secure all the citizens' right to work, right? So, therefore, Manrega as a scheme fulfills or gives a practical shape to Article 41 of the Indian Constitution, which is a directive principle. However, Manrega is now a law. It is passed by the Parliament. It is a statute, and it is binding on the state governments. They cannot reject them, right? So it has given a practical shape to Article 41 of the Indian Constitution. So very importantly, whenever the question on Manrega is being asked, they may ask you this article, that which among the following articles is being given a practical shape through Manrega. So it is Article 41, which talks about right to work. So every person, every citizen of the country has right to work. It is a right, and now it is a legal right under Manrega. Now there are employment guarantees being given. A non-employment wages would be given. That means if a person has filed for the job application and is not able to get within 15 days time period, then he would be given the employment allowances. Very, very important. So the time period is 15 days, which most of us would be knowing. And the guaranteed minimum 100 days of wage employment is there in the fiscal year per household. Correct. Now, decentralized planning. Now, it has also resulted into decentralized planning, and Gram Sabhas are the main actors in this initiative, students. We would be knowing it. Let us be on the screen. If I talk about the Panchayati Institutions, we know it is a 3-tier system, and it is following the recommendations of Balwant Mehta committee, right? At the grassroots level, you have Gram Panchayat. At the intermediate level, you have Panchayat Samitis. At the district level, you have Zila Parishad. So this 3-tier structure was being proposed by Balwant Mehta, and it was given a constitutional legal status by 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act 1992, right? So it's a 3-tier structure. At the village level, you have Gram Panchayats, and the legislative body at the Gram Panchayat is called as Gram Sabha. And the head of Gram Panchayat is called as Sarpanch. Head of Panchayat Samiti is called as Pradhan. And Zila Parishad is called as Zila Pramukh. Right. Now, Gram Sabha is a legislative body for Gram Panchayat. As you have Parliament at the center and Vidhan Sabha at the states, similarly, the law-making body for Gram Panchayat is called as Gram Sabha. And all the registered voters of that particular village are the members of this Gram Sabha, right? So that means all those persons who are the registered voters, who are eligible to vote, are the members of the Gram Sabha, right? And Gram Sabha is a legislative body of Panchayat. It formulates the laws. It is just like the Parliament and the Vidhan Sabha at the center and the state respectively, right? Now it is being said that the 50% of the work which is being sanctioned by Gram Sabha would be given to Manrega or would be implemented by Manrega, right? However, the controlling and coordinating of Manrega works is the task of Panchayat Samiti. Panchayat Samiti is being situated or being located at the intermediate level. So you may have hundreds of villages under one Panchayat Samiti, right? And Zila Parishad is at the district level, right? So the nodal authority for the implementation of Manrega is Panchayat Samiti, right? So it is the nodal authority for the implementation of Manrega, right? And Gram Panchayat and Gram Sabha, which includes the registered voters, the 50% of the work which is being sanctioned by Gram Sabha is being implemented by the Manrega, right? I hope we are clear with this. Let us move ahead. So, where Gram Sabhas are the main actors in this initiative, and they are given powers to recommend work, and 50% of the works recommended by Gram Sabha are executed. Now you see, here is the catch, and here is what I was explaining. So it is saying that 50% of the work recommended by Gram Sabha would be executed. Now as far as the planning, implementation and monitoring is concerned, it is done by the PRIs, and it is the Panchayat Samiti, as I just mentioned, at the intermediate level, which is tasked to plan, implement and monitor the functions of Manrega. I hope it is clear. Now moving ahead, it also talks about the worksite facilities. That means there should be proper drinking water available, shades, first aid kits, so on and so forth. And very importantly, student, the Manrega also has a compulsory or mandatory element that at least 1/3 of the members should be women, right? So at least 1/3 of the beneficiaries should be women. So that is the most important, I would say, provision of Manrega. And there would be audit on monthly basis, and 60% of the works would be labor intensive, and 40% would be material intensive. Material intensive means which requires material, right, like the building material, etc. And 60% of the work would be labor intensive, correct? Material intensive, for example, semi-skilled jobs like building dam, roads, etc. And labor intensive means which are unskilled, right? Now the state government is responsible for the effective implementation of this scheme. So that means the state governments are bound to actually implement the Manrega. And as far as the funding is concerned, and that is something which is very much important, and the questions may be asked on these lines. Now as far as the unskilled manual work is concerned, 100% of the wages would be borne by the central government. So students, 100% of the wages for the unskilled manual work, I am talking about unskilled manual work, it would be borne by the central government. Number one. Number two, 75% of the cost of semi-skilled and skilled labor, right? That means the semi-skilled and skilled labor, 75% of the total cost would again be borne by the central government. So here is the thing which every student must note. As far as the unskilled manual work is concerned, unskilled manual work means those works where the skill set is not required, unskilled work, right? And in the unskilled work, 100% of the wages would be borne by the central government. And for the semi-skilled and skilled labor, 75% of the cost would be borne by the central government. So here is the difference. If it is a semi-skilled or skilled labor, right? If it's semi-skilled or skilled labor, the central government would be bearing 75% of the cost, and remaining 25% of the cost would be borne by the state government, right? But as far as unskilled labor is concerned, unskilled manual labor, right? Unskilled, we do not require any skill set. The central government would be bearing 100% of the cost, right? So we must be very, very clear about this thing. If it is unskilled manual work, central government will be bearing 100% of the cost. If it is semi-skilled or skilled labor, the central government would be bearing 75% of the cost, right? And as far as the material cost is concerned, whatever material that is being used in the Manrega, 75% of the cost of the material would again be borne by the central government, and 6% of the administrative costs are also borne by the central government, right? Now, so whatever that is remaining is being borne by the state government, right? So 75% of the remaining is 25% for the semi-skilled and skilled labor. Will be borne by the state government. And the unemployment allowances that we just discussed, that if you're not able to get job within 15 days, the state government is bound to give you unemployment allowances, and 100% of that would come from the state government. So it's a very important provision of the act which every student must keep in mind. I hope it is clear. Okay, so moving ahead, there are many issues associated with Manrega students. As you can see, there are low wage rates, right? And it cannot be less than minimum agriculture wage rate of the state, right? So therefore there is lack of interest among the workers, right? And almost every year more than 80% of the funds get exhausted within the first 6 months, right? So whatever budget is being allocated, whatever funds are being given, to the states, within first few months or within first 6 months, almost 80% of the budget or 80% of the funds get exhausted. मतलब वो वहीं खत्म हो जाते हैं, 6 महीने होने तक तो पूरे फंड्स ही खत्म हो जाते हैं. So that is the major issue that this scheme is facing, right? So remaining part of the year you don't have any funds, right? So therefore the scheme is good, but then it is not properly, the funds are not properly channelized, and the audit is also not properly is not happening, right? Very important, it is being run by Ministry of Rural Development, and there have been many issues that the unemployment wages are still not being paid. इतने unemployment wages हो चुके हैं कि वो अभी तक पे ही नहीं कर रही है सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट, क्योंकि उनका जो सिस्टम है MIS, Management Information System, it is actually not reflecting the unemployment wages, and that is the reason why the government's claims of 92% on-time payments generations are misguided, right? So there have been administrative lapses. Banking puzzle is there because workers normally have to visit banks more than once to withdraw their wages, right? And as I said, that the MIS data is also faulty. It is not reflecting the unemployment wages, right? So in the figure, in the map, you can see that out of 35 states, 21 states have utilized over 100% of the funds till October 29, right? That means जो भी मनरेगा का जो फंड आया था वो अक्टूबर होते होते, मतलब फाइनेंशियल ईयर तो 31 मार्च को खत्म होगा, अक्टूबर के अंदर ही सारा फंड जो है यूज हो चुका है, राइट? सो दे आर लेफ्ट विद नो फंड, राइट? सो यू कैन सी उत्तर प्रदेश ने 97% जो फंड है इट हैज यूटिलाइज्ड टिल अक्टूबर. हिमाचल प्रदेश ने तो इट हैज ओवर एक्सीडेड 135%, राइट? सिमिलरली आंध्रा, तमिलनाडु, केरला, दे हैव ओवर एक्सीडेड. सो दे आर in the negative balance, right? So there are no fund available for this scheme, right? So that is a very important problem that the scheme is facing, right? Now moving to the next news article talking about the Delimitation Commission. Students, in India the elections are being held based on various territorial constituencies, right? The territorial constituencies are being decided based on the population, and they follow the principle of uniformity. That means more the population, more the representation. Now Uttar Pradesh, which has the highest population in our country, has the highest representation in Lok Sabha. So you would be knowing that from Uttar Pradesh around 82 seats come to Lok Sabha, right, because of its population. From Rajasthan there are 25 seats coming to Lok Sabha, right? So more the population, more the representation. So the overall ratio or the proportion is always same. So they follow a principle of uniformity, correct? Now these constituencies are being decided by a body which is being framed by the central government called as Delimitation Commission. Delimitation Commission decides the territorial constituencies. For example, let's say Udaipur. Udaipur has around 30 lakh population. I'm talking about the district as a whole, which includes all the villages, tehsils and the city. So it has 30 lakh population, and over 30 lakh population we have one member of parliament, right? Similarly, Jaipur, which has more area, and it has more population around 50 lakh, right, or 60 lakh to be specific. It has 2 MPs, right? So that means the principle of uniformity is being followed, and this these territorial constituencies or electoral constituencies are being decided by Delimitation Commission, right? So over 30 lakh 1 MP, so this rule would be followed throughout the state, right? So 60 lakh पे 2 MPs रहेंगे, right? So this is being decided by Delimitation Commission, and Delimitation Commission is being formed by the central government, right? So mind you, it is not a body which is formed by the parliament. It is not a statutory body. It is formed by the central government by executive resolution, right? So it is not a statutory body. It's not being formed by the parliament. Now, after the reorganization of the state of Jammu and Kashmir in the year 2019, the month of August, the delimitation commissions were being delimitation commission to form the new boundaries, right, or to create new boundaries or to craft new boundaries was being created, right? So delimitation commission is the act of redrawing boundaries of an assembly or Lok Sabha. Now the delimitation commission is just a commission formed by the central government, and based on the recommendations of this commission, based on the recommendations of the Delimitation Commission, the Parliament passes Delimitation Commission Act. Right. So the act, whenever the word act would come, definitely it is something related to the statute or law passed by the Lok Sabha or any state assembly. Right. So delimitation would be redrawing the boundaries of an assembly or the Lok Sabha. Right. And this exercise is being carried out by Delimitation Commission. So it has to be very clear, student. Delimitation Commission is being formed by central government. Right, it is a commission, whereas Delimitation Commission Act definitely is the statute or is a law created by the parliament. Now in Jammu and Kashmir, they are increasing 7 electoral constituencies. Are you getting 7 electoral constituencies are being increased? Let us see how. So Jammu Kashmir Delimitation Commission is an independent body, and it has retired Supreme Court judge. How often has Delimitation Commission been carried out? Now, when I talk about the Vidhan Sabha of Jammu and Kashmir, students, you can understand that the first Delimitation Commission was in the year 1963, then 1973, every 10 years, then 1995, right? Generally, it reflects the population of the last census, right? So that is the reason why 63 Delimitation Commission Act, would be reflecting 1961 census figures. The last exercise was conducted by Justice Retired K.K. Gupta Commission, right? So it was the last delimitation commission when the state was under President's rule and was based on 1981 census, right, which formed the basis of the state elections in 1996. So the last delimitation commission was based on 1981 census, right, and the state was in President rule. And because there was no census in the state in 1991, so therefore the figure of 1981 was being taken, right? So 1981 census figures were being taken because 1991 में census हुआ ही नहीं था, right? And therefore there was no delimitation commission which would be reflecting the figures of 1991 census. So if the question is being asked that the last exercise of delimitation commission was being conducted by which among the following justice? So the answer would be Justice K.K. Gupta Commission, and it reflected the population of 1981 census because in 1991 there was no census held, and based on the recommendations of Justice K.K. Gupta Commission, the elections to the state in 1996 were being held. Right. Now, so here is the data. As you can see, the Jammu Kashmir Assembly at that time had 87 seats, so on and so forth. Right. Now, what is the recommendation of the present Delimitation Commission that is of our interest? Now, the present Delimitation Commission, students, is being headed by retired Judge Ranjana Prakash Desai, because after the reorganization of the state, Ladakh has been crafted out of Jammu and Kashmir, right? So, Ladakh would be having 4 seats. Are you getting Ladakh would be having 4 seats in the, in the assembly. And although Ladakh is not a union territory with assembly, but it would be, it has decided that the commission would suggest 7 new assembly seats in the state. Now, we are just limiting ourselves to Jammu and Kashmir. The 7 new seats are being suggested by the commission, 1 from the Kashmir Valley and 6 from Jammu, right? So 1 seat would be added to Kashmir and 6 would be added to Jammu. And this will take the total seats in Jammu to 43 from 37, right? So previous to this commission, the seats were 37, and after the 7 seats are being added, right, it would increase to 43, right? And this is a figure of Jammu. As far as Kashmir is concerned, because the Kashmir Valley, 1 seat would be added, so 1 seat added to 46 comes to 47, right? So in this way, from Jammu and Kashmir, the total would be 43, and Jammu, the total would be 43, and Kashmir, the total would be 47, right? So these many seats would be the total 90 seats, right? So because Jammu Kashmir is a union territory with a Vidhan Sabha, right? And you possibly would be knowing that there are 3 union territories in India with Vidhan Sabha: Delhi, Pondicherry, and Jammu and Kashmir. Now Ladakh is a union territory, but it doesn't have a Vidhan Sabha, right? And according to the reports of the commission, they have proposed that the reservation to be given to 7 seats for scheduled caste and 9 for the scheduled tribes, right? So this is how the reservation would also be given, and it has also proposed a reservation of 24 seats for POK, Pak Occupied Kashmir, right? And the population figures that they would be taking is 2011 census. So students, I hope it is clear. I'll rephrase myself. The new Delimitation Commission has been formulated by the central government, and it is being headed by the retired Judge Ranjana Prakash Desai. And it has proposed 7 new assembly seats to be added in Jammu Kashmir Vidhan Sabha. 1 seat would be added to Kashmir region, and 6 seats would be added to Jammu region, right? So in this sense, Jammu would see an increase of 6 seats from 43 to 37, when Kashmir would see an increase of 1 seat, right? So 6 plus 1, 7 seats would be added, right? And Ladakh would continue to have 4 seats, and the reservation would be given, 7 seats would be reserved for the SC and 9 for ST, right? And the figures would be based on the 2011 census. I hope it is clear. So students, today we have discussed about the daily news analysis of 3rd of February, and I hope you liked the session. Stay tuned. Good day. Goodbye.